New Landing's Job Chat is brought to you in part by the Prosperity Advisory Group, the next step in your financial future, and by the EBS Group with an unparalleled background in Oracle solutions and services.
Are you looking for a job? Are you not happy in your current job? Freelancing is an option. What is it? You'll find out today on Job Chat. I'm your host, Hector Silva. Our guest is Julie Cortés.
Hi there.
Julie is a 15-year veteran of the advertising marketing industry. Julie Cortés is a successful, award-winning freelance copywriter and proofreader. In 2003, she founded the Freelance Exchange of Kansas City, a non-for-profit professional trade organization specifically for those who are self-employed in the advertising and marketing industry. Cortés, along with her partner, started Freelancers University, providing savvy advice, best practices, and industry standards to the creative, self-employed professional. She is an active member, volunteer, and leader in the ad community, including 3 years as Ad2 Communications Director, President, and immediate past President for American Advertising Federation. Julie Cortés is often sought out for speaking engagements and media interviews. Welcome, Julie.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Let's start off with just defining what is a freelancer.
A freelancer is somebody who works for themselves, what I like to call a solopreneur. So they're an entrepreneur in their own right. They work for themselves, whether at home, in their own office, or their own studio as well. And the freelancers that I'm most familiar with are in the advertising and marketing industry. So you have your copywriters, your photographers, your graphic designers, anybody who's self-employed in advertising and marketing.
So when you say work for themselves, they have their own business.
They have their own business.
They're their own company. They've been incorporated, or they're an LLC or something.
Or a sole proprietor. Many of them have gone freelance by choice. Many of them have not. Many of them have lost their jobs, such as in the current down economy, and have found no other way to make a living. So they've resorted to freelancing, and that's what they're going to do for their career path now.
What does it take to be a freelancer?
A lot of motivation. Okay. It really does. You have to have a lot of self-discipline. Even though you might be working from home, you have to consider it a business. You have to consider it a job. And so there's a lot of psychology that goes in behind it. You know, set your alarm in the morning, get up out of bed, get out of your pajamas, right? You know, just because you can work in your pajamas doesn't mean you should. And once you train yourself, it will really help with how successful your business is. You know, set office hours for yourself, for example. And go ahead.
When you're talking about all this, it sounds to me that, yeah, those are some of the things you need to do. But to begin with, you have to have some expertise in the area that you're freelancing in, don't you?
Absolutely. Well, you should anyway. Right. Yes. Many people went to college and got trained in advertising and marketing. However, you know, when you take those courses, they don't necessarily give you business classes as well. They're just not required in that sequence. So there's a lot of training that you need to do for continuing education and to make sure that your business is successful.
Right. How do you start off? And how do you get business?
That's an excellent question, and I wish I had the magic answer. Unfortunately, I don't. For me, it was really word of mouth. It was getting out there, networking, just making sure people knew who I was, that I was available. These were the services that I had. Here's how I can benefit them, most importantly, right? And you know, I did a lot of volunteering, I got my name known, and that's how I got a lot of business. Now, I know other freelancers who, you know, of course, we all have websites and have our portfolios online, which is definitely an essential. But, you know, maybe they're a little bit more introverted. They're not as extroverted as me, right? They don't want to go to the happy hours and the meet and greets and shake hands. So they'll resort to other things like sending emails or direct mail campaigns and really targeting the people who would be hiring them and getting perhaps agency quality talent at a fraction of the cost.
So do you reach back into those companies that you used to work for and people that you know?
Sure. There's the advertising agencies, there's design shops, those would be the obvious choices. But you can also do a lot of work for small business owners, the mom and pop shops. They really need help and can't afford the larger ad agencies. And then also you can go for nonprofits. There's so many different areas that you can target. You can even go after the large corporations and get work that way too, because they need help just as much as anybody else.
And we're talking about ad and marketing right now, but the same would hold true for any other discipline that you might be part of.
Yes, I would totally agree with that.
Okay. And once you start working with these people, how do you can get them to continue business with you?
It's been a lot about relationship marketing. It's not only, who you know, but it's how well you know them, right? So keeping top of mind with them, taking out your clients or your prospects for lunch, little gifts around the holidays, all of these kind of things, will help keep you top of mind and hopefully get you more business down the road.
I know that we're into a world of flexible workforces right now.
Mm-hmm.
So would this be considered a form of outsourcing, or is this something where you work with those outsourced companies?
It's both. It's both. I really think with the downturn of the economy that agencies in particular, they laid off a lot of people, so they had to outsource because they didn't have the business coming in order to hire somebody full time. So I think they're going to get comfortable with that. I think the people that they laid off are going to be comfortable freelancing and saying, I can't find anything. This is what I have to do. Why should I go back to work for you once the economy turns around? So there's so many different avenues we could go, but I truly believe that outsourcing is the way of, the present and the future, quite honestly.
Is it for everybody?
Not really. I'm going to be just perfectly honest. It isn't. If you're not self-motivated, it's not for you. If you need structure in your life and you can't provide that structure yourself, it's probably not for you.
How has the downturn in the economy that we're talking about, how has that affected the advertising and marketing business?
A lot. It really has. Unfortunately, when the economy is bad, the first thing that people want to cut is their advertising and marketing budgets, when in reality, it's the last thing they should be cutting because they should be still out there and ahead of their competition. So it affects everybody. But we keep doing what we're doing, and try and keep the small business person alive, keep all of our businesses alive, and just keep trudging along, coming up with new ideas, trying to help people out.
Is there a trend right now that you can see in any of the corporations?
The trend is huge for social media right now, I would say. A lot of people are using that avenue because it's free. It's free. So, as a freelancer, you can get paid for those services to get that set up for these advertising agencies or for your small business clients. That's a huge trend right now.
If you're working at this point, you have a job. Might not be too happy there.
Right.
How can you make connections while you're working and still be loyal to the company you're with?
Right. Well, as long as your company allows it, and I would check to see if you had to sign any non-compete contracts or anything like that, but you can start freelancing on the side. This is what we like to call our moonlighters or our part-time freelancers in the industry. And what I would suggest is just start going out, again, shaking hands, meeting people, letting them know what you're doing, setting up your business, get that all set up, get your business cards, your identity, your branding, get that all set up ahead of time. Make sure you're ready. Start getting the clients now, and then when you feel like you have enough that you can sustain yourself full time, that's when I would suggest making the jump.
And while you're freelancing, if you should get some business, can you still be looking for a job? Are you still out there in the job search environment?
Of course you can do both. And I would encourage you to do both if your end goal is to have a full-time job somewhere else. However, if you're considering freelance full-time, and I know this from experience, then I would consider you make that decision. Just make the decision, as scary as it is, and say, you know what? I'm not going to be searching for a full-time job anymore. I'm going to go full-time freelance. This is going to be my career, because I'll tell you, it does wonders for your psyche, right? And as soon as you're focused 100% on your business, you're going to do everything it takes to make sure you're successful, whether it's writing a business plan, a marketing plan, setting goals, all the things that you need to do in order to be successful.
I imagine competition in ad and marketing right now is pretty heavy. Then, if there have been so many jobs lost in that arena, but still, it's an important part of the business.
Right, and it's always a competitive business anyway, because it's a creative business and it's so subjective, right? So some people are going to like your work and some people aren't going to like your work. So you tend to find the people who like your work and go work with them.
In the bio, we talked about a number of organizations. Mm-hmm. How important is it to be part of these organizations, and how do they help?
For me, I have found it's incredibly important. Again, getting your name out, networking, being able to find the business. It's also about continuing education, making sure you're up to date with current trends in your industry, as well as just, finding people who could be potential clients or somebody to refer you. I have people referring me all the time saying, hey, she's the best copywriter ever, and they've never seen my portfolio. But they only say that because they think that because they see me out, I'm an active member, I'm an active volunteer. So apparently that translates to your work.
What do these groups do for you? Do they help you find work, or do they give you some skills that you don't have already, or...
It depends on the group that you're talking about. There's a lot of social to it, and which is so important for freelancers who work from home, because, you're just stuck at home with nobody to talk to. So there's that social component. Again, it's continuing education and learning current trends, like QR codes. Where were those 10 years ago? We didn't study those, right? And it's keeping up to date with the industry, keeping up to date with who's working where, and they don't necessarily help find jobs. Well, some of them might. They might present opportunities, but they can't guarantee it. They're not leads groups. If you want a leads group, that's a completely different subject matter that I'm not well versed on. So,
is there a stereotype about freelancers?
There's a stereotype, yes, and in particular on the word freelance, unfortunately. I think in the past, it had this negative connotation that, oh, you're just some hack who can't get a job, right? You're sitting at home in your bunny slippers, eating bonbons, sitting on the couch watching Jerry Springer, right? But that's not necessarily the case. Most of the people I know anyway are movers and shakers, and they are career freelancers. They have full-time jobs. So no matter what you call yourself, if you're self-employed, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a one-man shop, one-person agency, you're still technically freelance. So it is what it is, and don't let that term hinder you from getting the benefits that you could from some of these groups that we talked about.
Well, it gives you a flexibility that you wouldn't have if you had a regular job within a corporation, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, you get to set your own schedule. You can work evenings and weekends if you want, though I don't necessarily recommend that. You get to be your own boss. You can choose your own clients. You can choose what kind of accounts you want to work on. So if you don't only want to work on, let's say, used car dealers, you can totally get out there and spread your wings and get into different industries and make sure you're not bored, because of course creative people get bored really easily. So it's good to find out, that you can definitely work in different industries and, keep your mind active that way.
Talking about mind, it is a different way of thinking, totally. So again, you have to be able to think in that manner to be successful, do you not?
Yes. I would say any entrepreneur or any self-employed person, yes, definitely has to be a creative thinker and be able to think outside the box and come up with new ways to promote themselves, to get work and then to continue those relationships as well.
So if you were talking to someone out there today that was looking for a job, mm-hmm. and they were thinking of going into freelancing, mm-hmm. what's the one thing that you would tell them that they need to be careful about?
That's an excellent question, because there's so much more than that. Number one thing I would say, though, is collections. For some reason, advertising agencies, even big corporations and small mom and pop shops, have this thing where they think not all of them, let me preface that, but a lot of them will have this thing where they think that they can dictate your billing cycle, which is not the case. If you are your own business, you need to learn your legal rights, meet with an attorney, get a contract set up, and make sure that everybody is on the same page when it comes to billing and invoicing, and that 30-day turnaround is standard for the industry. And if they can't pay you till 60 or 90 days, they need to tell you that up front. So there's no surprises down the road. Make sure everybody's on the same page. And then if they don't get paid, like an ad agency, if they don't get paid by their client, you know what? They still owe you that money. They hired you, not their client hired you. So again, make sure everybody's on the same page ahead of time. Get it all documented, and then that way you'll be covered in the future.
You said that there were a number of things. Is there something else that we should also be looking at?
Oh, there's so many things. I could spend an hour on this.
Go right ahead.
Well, I would say, especially for freelancers, the biggest issues business-wise would be collections, taxes, and then health insurance. So taxes, what you can and can't write off. I mean, there's so many misnomers about what you can and can't write off. And then what's better, writing off your car mileage or writing off your expenses throughout the entire year. Can you write off clothes for business meetings? Actually, no, you can't. So, these are the little things that you find out. And health insurance obviously is a big deal if you're self-employed, especially if you don't have a partner or spouse and you can't get on their health insurance plan. It's something you need to deal with on your own. And I would highly suggest you have health insurance as a freelancer. Don't go without. But again, where are the resources to get health insurance and at the best rates when you're self-employed?
You talk about cost and charging people. Mm-hmm. So is the freelancer going to be cost effective then for a company? Absolutely. They're going to be more economically priced compared to an advertising agency or a small design shop, just because they don't have the overhead that those companies do. They don't have to pay for the office space, for the receptionist, for whatever. And quite honestly, when you hire a freelancer, you're not just hiring a photographer or a graphic designer. You're hiring somebody who does everything, right? So they are the receptionist. They are the research assistant. They are the salesperson. They do everything. So they're really well rounded, and they've got a good mind, a good head on their shoulders. Most of them also are really well connected. So if you say, okay, graphic designer person who I'm hiring, I also need a copywriter, I also need a photographer, who do you recommend? They're going to be able to pull in those people to complete the project for you. Since you are not part of that company that you're working for, mm-hmm. you're looking at it from a different viewpoint. So does a freelancer bring something in terms of new ideas or things that a person within the company could not provide? You could go either way on that. But yeah, I would say definitely they're going to have a different perspective, as opposed to somebody who, say it's a cake mix company, and they do cake mixes day in and day out. Well, they might not have thought of something that the consumer, so Joe Schmo freelancer, comes over here and says, hey, have you thought about this? Yeah, I mean, and especially with the creative thinkers, you're going to get a lot of different ideas coming in the door. So you have to be flexible. Yeah, and open-minded. Mm-hmm. Can you think of any incident where you did something that maybe you might not have been able to do if you were part of the company? That's an excellent question, and I'm trying to think back. It's just one of those things where you kind of you push the client a little bit with your ideas, and you push the envelope. So I can't really think of anything. I mean, I've been in business for 15 years, so there's so much going through my head right now. And you do it every day, so that it's just something you do naturally. Right, and you might throw out an idea and say, hey, here's a wild idea. I don't know if there's money in the budget for this, but have you ever considered this? Right? And they're, oh, wow, we've never considered that. Let's look into that, kind of thing. So it's kind of fun in that regard. Is a freelancer looking to get a permanent job in the company that they're working with, or they are just looking to be freelancers? Yes. Both. Both? Both, yes. You'll find a little bit of everything. It takes all kinds to make up the freelance community. You're going to find the people who definitely want to do this full-time as a career for a living, and you're going to find the people who
are looking to get back in, to a full-time job somewhere, and it also depends on what their situations are. Like if you're the sole breadwinner of your family, and with freelancing, your paycheck is never guaranteed. So you don't know, you might be doing really well this month, but you don't know what next month is going to bring. It might be rock bottom. You just don't know. So if you're looking for that stability, if you're looking for health insurance, a lot of those people are going to be looking for the full-time jobs and might be taking up their clients on those opportunities.
So in total, a freelancer is out there on their own, mm-hmm. and they are surviving on the business they can get. Mm-hmm. Is there a point where that business grows and they can say, I'm going to do this forever, or should they be considering it at all times? Is this working for me? I guess what I'm trying to get at is it's not going to work for everybody.
Right.
So how do you determine whether or not you need to continue this?
It all depends on the person, quite honestly. And again, if you're one of those people who knows that you need to have a full-time gig or need to have that stability, then absolutely, that's when I'm not going to say you should call it quits, but again, I'm a firm believer that you need to be 100% dedicated to what it is that you're going after, whether it's looking for a job or it's freelancing full-time. So if that's the end-all goal is stability, that's probably what I would recommend is going for the full-time gig. But if you're on the other side of the equation and that you've worked on the corporate side, you've worked on the agency side, and it's not for you, which a lot of us creatives can definitely attest to, having a boss and whatnot, if you know that that's not for you, then stick with it. Keep coming up with new ideas on how to promote yourself and get business, and you'll end up being fine in the long run.
So it's a difference between having a boss and having a client.
Right. Exactly. And the best thing about having a client is you can fire them if you need to.
Well,
just saying.
Well, Julie, I hope you don't fire us.
No, absolutely
But we want to thank you for spending your time with us today. If somebody wanted to contact you for more information, advice, where could you be reached?
You can reach me by email through the Freelancers University at julie@freelancersu.com.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. You can hear more advice and information from Julie and some of our other experts by going to www.newlandingsjobchat.org, or you can search on YouTube under Job Chat. Until next time, may your days be full of health, happiness, and success.